And now it's my honor to introduce MAP team member and this month's webinar lead, Sean Sawyer, who will be guiding us through our guest presentations and overall discussion this evening. And if we're lucky, he might break out his trumpet. Sean, take it away.
Andy, thank you for that impromptu introduction. And hello to everyone who made the choice to join us this evening. Our title for this month's webinar, as you've seen, is Successful Strategies Going Forward. It's purposely meant to convey the notion that we're nearing the end of the current Rotary year, which also means that we're rapidly approaching that dreaded arbitrary date of June 30th, where we anticipate the historic dump in club membership rosters. However, I used that word arbitrary on purpose because not only do we know that we should never take our foot off the gas, this is actually the time when we need to push on the pedal even harder for at least two reasons. One, this year is not over. And two, the new year is about to begin. Now, if you're a regular attendee of our monthly MAP calls, you've likely noticed that the MAP team sometimes takes a non-traditional approach in either the format of our time together or our approach to it. And if we're feeling particularly brave, we do both. Now, I don't know that you'll find that this month's call has any maverick format qualities, but I absolutely believe that you will find that who we've invited to share some time with us this evening are mavericks in their own right. You're about to meet two leaders in Rotary that will share with us that it's one, not too late to continuing focusing on the first part, staying strong and leaning into the annual transition, and two, not being too early to start thinking about the second part, which is what we want to do once the transition occurs. And keep in mind that while the roles from which they speak to us this evening are as district and zone leaders, everything we will hear tonight is about what can be done at the club level, where Rotary happens and the rubber meets the road. To get us started, it is my first pleasure to deliver to you past district governor and current district 7670 membership chair, our Zone 33's own Tammy Mosteller. She served in almost every club role prior to 2022, at which time she served as district governor. After leading her district in that position, she continued to serve her district in ways including cart chair, public image co-chair, and most significantly, for purposes of this evening, district membership chair. Now, if you haven't noticed, 7670, despite all the physical devastation it has been faced with in the last nearly 2 years, is leading our zone in net membership growth. So I felt it only to make sense to ask her to join us this evening as someone who is currently carrying the torch and share with everyone a snapshot of what has happened thus far among the clubs in her district, and perhaps most importantly, what efforts are being made to allow them to finish strong, as well as what is happening to groom the transition to be ready for July 1st's new leadership, both in the district and in the clubs. Tammy, I apologize for losing my voice during your introduction, but the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. When we came out of Hurricane Helene, we had several clubs in the district, 7670, that were struggling. And it wasn't just because of the storm, but because they had already been losing some momentum before the storm even hit. And a few of those clubs were even at the point they were seriously considering turning in their charters. So instead of waiting around to see what would happen, we made a decision pretty quickly that we were going to be intentional about stepping in and helping. So one of the first things I did was I asked our then district governor nominee, Ross Sloan, he was district governor nominee designate at the time, to take the lead on putting together a club assistance team. And so he pulled together a small group of about 4 or 5 Rotarians. And these were just people who were willing to go beyond just giving advice. They actually got involved with these clubs. And before they started working with anybody, we made sure they had some training. And that's when they spent some time with Terry Weaver, um, focusing on how to assess a club, how to listen well, how to identify what was really causing the issues. And because what we found was what you see on the surface is not really the real problem. And so once the team was ready, after they had been trained with Terry Weaver, they started working with clubs that were in the most trouble. And the first thing they did was not come into the club with solutions. they really listened and they met with the leadership of the club and they talked through what was going on so that they could get a clear picture of where things actually stood. But here's where our approach shifted just a little bit. And this is really the piece that made the biggest difference for us was we realized pretty quickly that if we only focused on fixing things inside the club, it wasn't going to be enough. So we made a very intentional decision to expand outside the club. So we had district leaders and members of the team that went out into the communities around the clubs, specifically into local businesses. And they sat down with business owners and community leaders and professionals, and they started having these conversations about Rotary, not in a salesy way, just trying to help them understand. They tried to help them understand what is Rotary, what do we actually do, and how can being involved make a difference in their own community. So for a lot of these folks, it was the first time they'd ever really been invited into that conversation. And that did two things for us. First, it expanded our awareness of Rotary at the grassroots level in places where we didn't have a presence. And second, it started bringing new energy and new people into the clubs that had been struggling for a long time. And at the same time, we also looked at the identity of these clubs. Several of them had names or structures that didn't really reflect their community or what they were trying to do or where they were trying to go. So in some cases, we completely worked on rebranding, like Black Mountain. What the people in Swannanoa thought because they lived in Swannanoa, they couldn't come to the Black Mountain Club. So it was rebranded Black Mountain Swannanoa. And it also updated how they presented themselves, and they really began to clarify their purpose in the community. And I'll tell you what mattered, that mattered a lot more than we really expected, because when a club's identity aligns with its community, it becomes much easier to attract the right people. We also encouraged and supported those clubs in hosting their Discover Rotary events. Last year and this year, I used the district membership chair reimbursement money for the Discover Rotary events. And these events gave clubs a chance to bring in community members, again, to share what Rotary is about and create a welcoming local environment for new people. When you combine that with the outreach to local businesses and a refreshed identity, that's when things really started to turn around. And then, in addition to what we were doing locally, we also brought in the North American Club Creation Team. And they helped us look at things from a broader perspective. They helped us look at the club structure, the flexibility, and how to position these clubs for long-term success. And the result of all of this is that we were able to take clubs that were preparing to close and not only keep them open, but we actually were able to revitalize them. And the clubs saw new members come in, they saw stronger engagement, they saw the leadership in these clubs begin to regain confidence. And I think probably the most important thing was that we saw these clubs reconnect with their communities. And if I had to boil it down to what makes the biggest difference in what we done, it would probably be that we stopped thinking about saving clubs from the inside out and we started rebuilding them from the outside in, and the clubs being directly involved in the process by reconnecting with the communities, by bringing in new voices, being willing to adjust how they operated. So I would say for any district that's dealing with struggling clubs, I would just offer this. Don't wait until it's too late. Be intentional. I would definitely say form a club assistance team, get them in place, get them trained, and get them working with the clubs. And don't be afraid to step outside the club and engage the community in a bigger way, because that's really where the growth and the sustainability really comes from. And that's just what worked for us in District 7670.
Tammy, that's great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank everyone in your district, not just for what you're doing to grow your membership, but staying the course with everything else that you've had to endure and still having the results that you have. I I personally appreciate you taking the time to share with us what any club can do to grow if you just take the time to work through what is necessary. So let's now take the next step and move from what's being done within the current cycle and nearing its end and move toward efforts that can be taken so that we're ready for the beginning of the next one. And to do that, it's my pleasure to deliver to you past District Governor Cindy Kish. Now, Cindy is the Zone 32 Rotary Membership Coordinator for 2024 through 27, the Chris Justice and Mary Ligon of the New England region, if you will, and someone who became an even greater friend of mine while we served together as International Assembly facilitators this past year in Orlando. Cindy is quite modest, so I won't embarrass her with a long list of accolades, but I have no doubt that you will feel her passion, experience, and leadership as she now shares with all of us this evening a very clever concept that can be used specifically in our clubs to ring in the new Rotary year to our members in a new way, and that also attracts new ones to join us and better prepare new leadership as the torch is handed to them very soon. Cindy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate that introduction, and it's great to get to know you. It's wonderful to be actually in my home zone. I'm actually from Virginia, so it's nice to have the opportunity to be here. So thank you for having me here to talk about membership, Rotary's #1 internal priority. Today, we're going to focus on how your club can intentionally design an engaging experience, build a strong foundation, and grow by sharing your Rotary story. So all of this is about engaging your current members and attracting new ones. So I'd like for you to think about your club as a home, your Rotary clubhouse. Now, we all love our clubs, or at least I hope we love our clubs. But what if your club was a house? What would it look like? Would it be warm and welcoming? Or maybe a little bit of a fixer-upper? So today we're going to look at your club through a new lens. Design it, build it, grow it. Because like any home, it takes intention. It needs to be designed thoughtfully, built on a strong foundation, and grown with care. So grab your pencils, we're going to start designing. Design is all about how people feel when they walk in that door. So ask yourself, what does your club feel like? Is it traditional, a lunchtime meeting, structured, very familiar? Is it more like a whimsical cottage where connection and fellowship are more emphasized? Is it modern? Have you adapted some new practices? Are you evolving? Do you use WhatsApp? Or is it a castle, impenetrable, hard to enter, very closed off? But think about that. Really picture it. If your club were a house, what would it look like? Traditional, whimsical, modern? Maybe a little combination of them all. But here's something that's very important that I'd like to point out. There are two things, no matter what your home looks like. Each and every one who walks through the door will experience it differently. And no matter what, you cannot maintain it on your own. That's where collaboration in Rotary really matters. So think like a designer. What would you change to make it more welcoming or inclusive or engaging? Because the experience inside the house is everything. How members feel when they walk through that door, that's important. That's the club experience. And Rotary's research tells us that that is the #1 driver of membership satisfaction. It's not your bylaws. It's not your dues. It is the club experience. So think of your clubhouse as having 5 different rooms: meeting enjoyment, confidence in club leadership, personal growth opportunities, connections, and meaningful service. If you ignore one, the whole house feels off. So let's walk into that first room. That first room is meeting enjoyment. Our meetings should be productive and enjoyable. Energy matters. Laughter matters. People return to places that make them feel good. Now, we all remember that fun house when we were growing up. For me, it was Sherry's house. Sherry had the best snacks, 5 different types of soda. Her mom was really cool and hip, and you were always welcome no matter what. And they had HBO. Now, then that was a big deal. And that's what your clubs and meetings should feel like: fun, easy. Now, they don't have to be perfect, but a place where people want to come back to. Because fun brings people in, but ease keeps them there. And that brings us to our second room: confidence in club leadership. As leaders, each and every one of us can remove barriers to engage our participants. We can set a tone of inclusiveness, and we can eliminate the friction that quietly pushes people away, ensuring that all members, not just the one who speaks the loudest, and you all know who that is, but all members have a voice and feel confident to express their ideas. Our leadership sets the tone. And because when leaders remove friction, participation then feels easy. And personal growth opportunities are important to every single one of our members. People join Rotary for many reasons, but they stay when they grow. And growth isn't just for younger professionals. It's for everyone. It's asking, what are you interested in? What would you like to try? And where do you want to grow? Maybe it's about joining a new service project, or helping to build a playground, or working on a food insecurity initiative, or taking a course on our learning center within 15 to 30 minutes right from the security of your own personal home. You can take so many courses. Want more information on the role that you currently have this year, or you might be taking next year? We've got a course on that. Want to learn more about facilitation? You can take a course on that. You want to learn how to rewire a house? Well, we can't help you with that quite yet, but I bet a member of your own club or your neighboring club could help you with that. Because growth does not happen in isolation, it happens through connections. And connections are at the heart of everything we do in Rotary. When we engage deeply, we build belonging. Now think about that person who made you feel connected in Rotary. What did they do? Was it something big, or was it something really simple? They sat next to you. They introduced you to others. They followed up after a meeting. They made it feel like you mattered. That's connection. Belonging isn't built through agendas, it's built through moments. So ask yourself, do your members feel seen, heard, and valued? Or are they just attending? Because here's the truth: people don't stay because of the meeting, they stay because of those relationships. And relationships do not happen on accident, they are created. And a lot of that happens and is created through the fifth room of our house: meaningful service. And our service must evolve just like people do. Ask yourself, are your projects still meaningful to your current members' needs? Because think about your own life. You know, when I was younger, I wanted that fun house like Sherry's house. I wanted that candy and soda, and yes, HBO. But in my 20s, I wanted live music and dancing. In my 30s, I wanted a place for my kids. And now I know I've skipped a little time, but now I want wine, cheese, and jazz. Our interests changed. My interests changed. Your club is built of individuals. Needs change. And your service must evolve just like that. And when your service evolves, engagement also will come back to your club. Because that's when the passion happens. When your service is aligned with your current members' needs, participation grows. And that brings us all back to our club. Now that we've walked through all of those rooms, it's time to sit down with that pencil and design what you want your current clubhouse to look like. And you need to do that by asking your members, survey them, do a membership assessment survey, a club health check, have conversations, use data, use a map, or a simple phone call. Sit down with your team, and create that design, that plan, and not just for 1 year. I know you all have heard this. It's about creating a 3-year rolling plan because anyone who has ever renovated a house or worked on a house knows that things happen. Hiccups happen. You tear down that wall, you find out there were pipes that you didn't know were there. So that's where having that 3-year plan where you can design, evolve, create things, and pivot, that's when plans take place. So once you have that plan, and having a plan is crucial, you would not go and just build a deck one day. You'd have to have a plan. Have that plan with your team, and then you can start to build. And for us, Rotary, our Rotary Foundation is not a slab of concrete. It's service, relationships, and leadership. That's what holds all of us up. And strong foundations are built one building block at a time. One building block. And we need a variety of building blocks to build that strong clubhouse. It's built through service and connections. That's how we create these strong building blocks. And some of these building blocks are purpose, where members know why they're here. Participation, where everyone has a role and is engaged. Partnerships. Now, this is our internal and external partnerships, collaborating with committees and building those relationships with our communities to expand our reach. And pride, which is so very important, where our members feel that sense of ownership and joy. Now, ask yourself when you think about your own club, when you look at these building blocks, or maybe other building blocks, what's the strongest in your own club? And which of these building blocks may need a little reinforcement? That's your renovation opportunity. But once your house is standing tall, once you have these strong building blocks, it's time to invite others in. And that's where Rotary growth happens. Because a great club, a beautiful home does not stay hidden. People notice it. And growth happens when we share our stories, show our impact, and invite others in. Now, visibility is not bragging, it's an invitation. So think about this. How easy is it for someone to join your club? Do they know where to go, who to talk to, and what to do next? Or are we intentionally having them knock on the door and then just wait? Because every member, when they knock on the door and when they open up that door, what happens next is the story they will all tell. Because each and every one of you, each and every one of us is a storyteller. And now, when I'm talking about your story, I am not talking about your elevator speech, because most of the time when I hear an elevator speech, it's accurate, but it's more about numbers and how we were formed and what we've accomplished. And all of that matters, but it doesn't move people. What moves people is about how you feel. It's not about what your club does. It's about what you've experienced. What made you feel proud? What made you feel connected? That is your story. It might be that project that changed your life and someone else's life. That moment when that member felt included. Or that time your club showed up when it really mattered. Those are the stories people remember. Those are the stories that people repeat. Because when stories are real and belonging is genuine, that's when people feel part of it. That's when people want to come in and join. And that's when growth stops feeling like something you have to push and it all happens naturally. So when we look at this all and bring it all together, when you design for engagement, when you build with purpose, and when you grow through storytelling, your club becomes a place where people belong, contribute, and stay. So think about that one small change in your club's design that you can change next month. And what's one building block that you could strengthen? And how will you open your door to new members? Through these small things, one change, one strengthened block, one open door. That's how your clubhouse begins to come alive and thrive. Because when you step back and look back at it, it really isn't about plans or structures at all. It all comes down to one single thing: when we design, build, and grow together. When a member, a new or current member, walks into your club, they won't all know the strategic plan. They won't understand every single one of your bylaws. Here's what they will know: how you made them feel. Did they feel welcomed, useful, connected? Did they feel like they belong? Rotary members, design meetings people enjoy. Build those connections people value. Remove that friction that pushes people away. Take care of your clubhouse, because when people feel like they belong, they don't just stay. They invite others in, and that's how Rotary grows. Thank you all so much for all that you do for Rotary.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Tammy. While we understand that it serves only as one of the examples and not to be the intended solutions, you have both given us something that all of us can consider and develop in creating our own roadmap to success. So I greatly appreciate both of you for taking the time to share with us this evening. And with that being said, we're now going to be taking questions from our audience. Please post those questions in the Q&A section. Questions listed in the chat may be missed. And it seems like we've already received a couple, and the first couple are actually for Tammy. Miss Tammy, I'm going to combine a couple of these to make it easier. But there's a little script that they added in front of it, mentioning the uh, how you talked about in your presentation. When a club identity aligns with its community, it becomes much easier to attract the right people. This often reminds people of the idea that clubs should reflect the communities they serve, including their member demographics and service projects to the community. So the questions here is, how do we help clubs that have served the community for 50 plus years, are still doing the same projects over and over, and are slowly declining year over year? What recommendations do you have for clubs in this unfortunate common situation?
Well, like we did in our clubs in our district, was we got out, we started surveying the community. And we did that community survey to make sure that what we were doing, which it clearly was not what was needed in the community, because we've always done it this way. And so as they got out and they started surveying the needs of the community, they found out that what they were doing was very different from what was needed. And they made the shift. Sometimes a club can get a little, well, this is our club. We do what we've always done it this way. But if it's not meeting the needs of your community, it's a social hour. And so, you just have to have folks that were willing, and our folks were willing. Thank goodness they were very willing, and they were very ready to change a little and do what they needed to do. And I can't say enough about the club creation team. I can't. Our district uses it all the time. If you can't figure out what your club needs, you can go on that clubcreationteam.org and you can schedule a call, and they walk you through one little step at a time. We have used them a lot in our district.
You know what, Tammy, great response, and thank you so much for bringing it up. You actually mentioned it earlier today as well, the club creation team. Can you expand a little bit on that for us? What is the club creation team?
It is a team that was created. Some of the people on this webinar, I think, are the ones who created it. It's also- but it's just a way of coming in and working with clubs to either help refresh them, to form new clubs. If your district is wanting to form a club, then you contact the club creation team and they walk you through every little step. My club, Rotary Club of Alzheimer's Research, we were a satellite club until December of this 2025. And I went on there and I was like, well, we've been a satellite long enough. It's time. Went on the club creation team, and within 2 weeks, we were able to get chartered. They help you walk through every little step. You have an interview. They say, after this interview, you need to do this one thing. You do the one thing, and then you come back and you go to the step two. And then they tell you what to do step two. When it comes time to charter, they do all of the paperwork. They just send it to you, to the president and the secretary for the signatures. And it is the easiest thing I've ever seen when it comes to helping a club, because they can identify things that we can't see. They're looking from the outside in.
Miss Tammy, it sounds like they're a phenomenal team to help streamline the process and expedite the process to ensure we get these clubs created in a timely fashion. Wonderful. Miss Cindy, I'm glad that you shared the club experience today and gave it a newfound look with the clubhouse analogy. I absolutely loved it. You put it together in such an easy to understand format, including intentionally designing, building, and growing to engage current members and attract new members. From your own perspective, for clubs that have not yet put the club experience at the forefront of their priorities, where would you recommend they begin to design, build, and grow their own clubhouse?
So I'm going to echo a little bit of what Tammy just said, and it's about talking to your members, surveying your members, making sure you understand where they are, and then following up on it. So many times I talk to leaders and, oh, well, we did a survey, or we did this, but then it stayed there, it stayed back in that box. So really intentionally looking at the information that you get back and sitting down. I know my home club, once a year, we sit down and we talk about what our members are looking for. And we reevaluate what we're doing to see if it's actually working and thriving and engaging our members and engaging potential members to come in, because I know things, sometimes people get tired of doing that same project. They get tired of that same fundraiser. And it doesn't mean you have to completely throw something out. It can just be taking it and tweaking it just a little bit. Your membership, if your people like your member meeting time, that's great. Maybe it's just a small shift in what happens during your meeting. So really surveying your members is key to what your club looks like today and what your club will look like in the future. And Rotary offers wonderful tools. I know people say go online, and sometimes you don't understand where to go or what to do, but that's why you have assistant governors and district governors there to help you. And these webinars are here to help you find that information if you don't have it right in front of you.
Miss Cindy, thank you very much. Great response. You're right. A survey is a phenomenal place to begin to better understand what needs to be adjusted to better meet the needs of members and create an experience that's meaningful. In fact, I noticed in the chat just now, and I'm trying not to look at the chat too much, but someone dropped in there that the word intentional is being utilized over and over again here, because that's what we're talking about, being intentional, right? And creating that roadmap. And it starts with intentionality. But I'm going to bring us right back to surveys, because you also brought it up again. Miss Cindy, one of the questions we received is, when do you do a club survey? You mentioned annually. Is it conducted online or at a meeting? What's the process there for your own club?
So for my home club, we do it in January, because we find that gives us the opportunity to kind of look at what we're doing. And it also aligns when we're selecting our new officers and who's coming in. And it's right before we're going to get into Pell season. So our members can go in with an idea of what they're thinking about, get that training at Pell's, come back, talk to all of our members, and then really create that plan for July 1 so that we're ready to go. So for us, we do it January, but I think any time in the spring can be a wonderful time for your club, or quite frankly, anytime your club would like to get together and talk about a plan. it's really about your own club culture. The beauty of Rotary is each and every club is unique and different.
Mhm.
So go back, talk to your members, and find out what's the best time for you to sit down, get that information, align it with your club, and then again move it forward. Because a plan that sits on paper and is not implemented with intention doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't produce anything. You're right on, Miss Cindy. Thank you. Tammy, we're going to bring it back to you for a moment because you mentioned, and someone brought this up, Discover Rotary as well as a Discover Rotary event reimbursement, which I believe are two different things. Could you do us a favor and expand a little bit more on what is a Discover Rotary and how can potentially clubs be reimbursed for this process?
Sure. So Discover Rotary, if you're not aware already, the template is on the Zone 3334 website. Just go on there and search Discover Rotary. It is a completely editable template that you can download, and you can just really showcase your club or even your district in that template. And then that's when you invite potential Rotarians. You want to have more than 6 at a time. You don't want to overwhelm anybody. And you just have a discussion and you kind of walk through the PowerPoint to explain to a non-Rotarian what Rotary is. A lot of clubs will do it as a separate standalone program at a coffee shop or somewhere they can get away a little quiet corner. And other folks will do it prior to a meeting and then have those Rotarians come to their meeting. We have quite a few clubs that do a Discover Rotary quarterly. But it's a great tool to use when you're going out, especially trying to get your community engaged. They went out, they used this Discover Rotary in the Swannanoa area with the Black Mountain Club. We'll have another club formed by the end of this month, I think, in Old Fort using Discover Rotary.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so the way that you can get reimbursed is Rotary International has a reimbursement so that when the district membership chair helps to fund that Discover Rotary, and it's not just Discover Rotary, there are other membership things you can use, but those have been the ones that have been the most effective in our district. And so the district membership chair funds the Discover Rotary, and then they file for reimbursement, and it comes pretty quick within a week. And that's how we've done it in our district.
Fantastic, Miss Tammy. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep you here for one quick second if we can, only because this is another question in reference to Discover Rotary. Someone asked, how do we convince current members to invite potential members to a Discover Rotary event, particularly if members are older and have fewer friends and contacts? What's that strategy, Miss Tammy? How do we convince them?
Sometimes you just have to go out and talk to business owners. If you have current members, and we all do, we do have club members who they just want to come in and hang out and just do their thing, and that's fine. If they don't want to invite them, I don't know that you're necessarily going to convince them to, but as a leader in your club, wouldn't you want to go out to businesses and those and explain a little bit about and invite those folks? If your members won't do it, you can explain to them the value of it, but in the end, we're all a volunteer army, so you just yeah.
It sounds like utilizing a different pipeline other than just members, right? The community itself and seeing who has yet to have learned about your club and inviting them to that information hour.
That's correct.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. Now we are short on time, but Miss Cindy, I have one more question for you because this one just dropped into my list and I have to ask it. It's a good one that everyone's going to get a lot out of. Now, Cindy, Tammy today discussed building your club from the outside in. You talked about recreating your club from the inside out. What club characteristics determine which of these two processes is really best for your club? How does a club member or club leader determine which route they should take or where they should work on first?
This is a great thing for assistant governors because sometimes in your club, it's hard for you to really see what your club needs. So I would advise you to talk to your assistant governor because I think Tammy mentioned this. Sometimes you can't see everything that's going on and you need an outside perspective. I think a lot of us have heard no profit in your own land, and I think that that's true in your clubs as well. So talk to your assistant governor and have your assistant governor come to a meeting and see what their perception of your club is. Have that conversation and then see what your next steps should be.
Fantastic. Utilize the additional resources and people and
Mhm.
personnel that we have. I love it. AGs are great for that. Thank you very much, Miss Cindy. Now, with that, we are at the end of our Q&A segment. Thank you both to Tammy and Cindy for staying with us and sharing your experience. I would also like to, as always, thank our audience for submitting your questions and making this Q&A segment as engaging as it possibly can be. Next, we're going to be hearing from our immediate past Zone 33 Rotary Membership Coordinator, Terry Weaver, with the Membership Success Center Tidbit of the Month. Terry, take it away, sir.
Thanks, Jose. You know, at this time of year, it's easy to be hypnotized by the most misleading statistic in all of Rotary, your club's net membership gain. You may be net positive right now by 2 or 3 members and feeling great about that. And up to now, that's been all we've had to gauge membership progress during the year. But what's the problem with counting on that statistic? Well, it ignores how you got to that point. In many cases, a club is net positive by 2 or 3 members because its usual annual terminations either haven't happened yet or haven't yet been posted in DACDB, Club Runner, or Rotary International. You see, attrition is real and it's highly predictive. If your club has on average, for example, lost 6 members a year for the past 3 years running, that's highly likely to happen again this year. If those haven't happened yet, then a positive year-to-date membership gain is completely irrelevant and it's masking a problem that's about to happen. That's because terminations are back-end loaded, meaning that they tend to happen in the last few months, weeks, or days of the Rotary year. So if your club is celebrating its current net membership gain, I invite you to pull back the covers, have a look at the real data. Compare your terminations to date versus your annual average. If your terminations have been low to this point, you're likely to catch up with that average over about the next 8 weeks, although those members haven't yet identified themselves. And that's a bad surprise at the end of June. If those terminations haven't happened yet, you need to be thinking about replacing those members before they identify themselves. You clearly know how to attract new members. After all, you have a net gain of members. You've attracted some. You may just not have attracted enough to withstand the year-end surprises that catch most clubs off guard. So do yourself a favor. Have a look at this month's Membership Success Center Tidbit video. It explains how to use the Membership Success Center to do a final course correction on new member attraction while there's still time to react. That's at rotaryzones3334.org/course. Thanks for watching.
Well, thank you, Terry. And thank you to Tammy and to Cindy for such a rich and practical evening of just wonderful advice. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. We're at one of the most important moments in the Rotary calendar. The end of the year isn't a finish line, it's a launching pad. And everything you heard tonight points to one simple truth. The clubs that thrive are the ones that stay intentional, even when it would be easy to coast. There's that word again, intentional. Tammy shared with us that even in the face of real hardship, a district can rebuild clubs from the outside in by going into the community, listening first, and not waiting for problems to solve themselves. Cindy reminded us that our members don't stay because of bylaws or meeting agendas. They stay because of how we make them feel. That's at the core of the Rotary experience. And Terry just gave us a clear-eyed look at the numbers we should actually be watching as June 30 approaches. So here's my challenge to every club leader on this call tonight. Don't let the momentum from this evening fade by tomorrow morning. Pick one thing, one building block to strengthen, one conversation to have with a struggling member, one new face to invite in, and do it this week. The next Rotary year begins on July 1st, but the work that shapes it begins right now. You've shown up tonight, and that tells me that you care. Now let's go show our clubs and our communities exactly what that looks like in action. Thank you all for being here, and now stay tuned for some final announcements. Andy, back to you.
Thanks, Patrick. We appreciate you all being here. We got some great advice tonight from Tammy and Cindy. We're encouraging you to finish strong. We recognize the clubs that are expanding Rotary in their communities. And we want to recognize you and your club in August with the Zone and Map Teams Awards. We'll have the Milestone Award with 1 year of growth, and clubs that have 2 years or more of growth will receive the Momentum Award. And believe it or not, we have some clubs with 13 years of growth and impact in their communities. Maybe this is the year you start off with year 1 of growth on your way to 13. We know these webinars are packed with great insights, and also we want to recognize that sometimes ideas come from open dialogue. That's why we have the Map Lounge, a casual come as you are Zoom space to further the conversation. The Map Lounge isn't another presentation. It's your opportunity to talk, share, and connect. Whether you have a question, a challenge, or an idea sparked by today's webinar, this is your place to bring it. Our next Map Lounge session will be this Saturday, May the 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern. So come by and explore how we can put these ideas into action in our own clubs and districts. Our next membership webinar is on Monday, June the 8th, which is going to be our greatest hits from 25-26. Top 10 membership strategies throughout this past Rotary year to help your clubs grow. We'll hear from clubs that have effectively used all the available tools and, not surprisingly, they're found in the Membership Success Center. They've created and executed effective club plans and are growing their clubs. So swing on by for the June MAP webinar on Monday, June the 8th for the greatest hits. We're here to support you every step of the way. If you got questions, ideas, just scan the QR code. We'd love to hear from you. You're not alone on this journey. We are here for you. Thanks for being with us on this month's MAP webinar, and we look forward to seeing you again on June 8th for our greatest hits. Have a great evening.